What up, family? It's the Bitesize Breakdown crew, and we are back with another episode of A Bigger Bite, continuing our run through the Best Picture series, taking deeper dives into all the Best Picture nominees this year. And we are going to be talking about and saying the name Victor like 50 million times today. We just saw, some of us just saw Wuthering Heights, and that man's voice cannot get out of our heads. But we are here with a great panel today, starting off with one, Mr. Boss Man, Mr. Nick Van Dinther. Nick, how are you?
I am very excited to talk about this film. I liked it a lot at TIFF, and I worked on it.
And I look for you every single time, and I never see you every single time. Sorry, man. I think the other lady down here was in a chat asking where were you all the time as well, but happy to have her back, Amanda. Amanda, how are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm so good. Thanks for having me, and especially for this film, which won my heart the second I watched it. So I'm excited.
All right, and special guest today from Earth to Realm and from Next Best Picture, we got Nadia Dalimonte. Nadia, thank you for joining us today. How are you feeling about this crew, this movie, just being able to talk about this in general?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be with everybody today, and I absolutely love this film, so I'm so excited to talk about it.
All right, well, kick it off for us. What are your general thoughts on the movie? And we are spoiling everything, so just kick right off whatever you want. Anybody who has not seen this, you can keep watching if you want, or you can pause and go see it and then take the 3 hours and then come back. Do whatever you want. We're about to spoil the shit out of it. But anyway, how did you feel about the movie in general?
So this movie was my most anticipated movie of 2025 for two reasons. I loved Mary Shelley's book, and I love Guillermo del Toro. So I was very excited and very intrigued by the fact that Frankenstein was his dream movie since he was a kid. And so in many ways, this adaptation was kind of written in the stars. I feel like it was the story that he was born to direct. And I felt that he really succeeded through and through. I think he's incredible at Gothic storytelling. I think he's so good at envisioning the internal worlds for his misunderstood monsters, and everything is rooted in emotion and atmosphere. And I love this film. I've seen it 5 times now. The first time was at the TIFF premiere, and honestly, since then, it's been the gift that keeps on giving for me. I find something new to engage with every time I watch it. And I just think that Del Toro, he really clues into so many different themes from the book. And he gives us the teenage rebellion in the writing, in Shelley's writing. And he gives us this very dignified portrayal of Frankenstein's creature, which Jacob Elordi plays to perfection. I absolutely loved his performance. I'm so thrilled that he's an Oscar nominee for this film. And Del Toro, he just elevates everything about the story so well. And visually, it's beautiful. I mean, every frame looks like a painting. And I just felt immersed into his whole relationship with the book. You know, there's a lot of heart and humanity in it. It really feels like his personal stamp on this story. And he has such a specific vision for it. And I really felt like a student of of Del Toro's storytelling. I just wanted to keep learning about how it was made and what inspired the choices, and wanting to discover details that I didn't catch the first time. So I think it's a really wonderfully layered film and a very deeply personal adaptation from Del Toro that hasn't left my mind since I've seen it. So I'm very excited to talk to everybody about it.
Yeah, the one thing about there's 50 million Frankenstein adaptations out. We still have another one coming out. It's either going to be out already by the time you see this or soon. When I was watching it, that's the question I had. I have not read the source material. I've only seen all the adaptations. How close is this to the actual source material? Because I was very surprised when they flipped the narration, and I was like, I had no idea this was coming. Okay.
Yeah, like it's close and it's not in a way. There's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of specific scenes that are lifted from the book. Like there was one in particular where Victor wakes up and sees the creature at the edge of the bed. That's straight from the book. So it isn't, I think, in terms of the bare bones of the story, but I think what Del Toro kind of changes about it or makes his own is more so the father and son dynamic that he really leans into. And it really is a story about, what kids inherit from their parents. And Victor, what has he embedded from his father that he, takes with him and interprets into his own identity in a way. And that feels very personal from Del Toro. It's very much about fathers and sons and about forgiveness and learning to love and learning the ways of the world, and also about belonging. A lot of his movies deal with monsters, and the monsters being the kind of outsider of society, and that's also in the book as well. So I think thematically a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And in terms of certain key scenes that are very much lifted from the book to screen, but he also brings his own stamp to it through the father and son dynamic, I felt.
Nick, Amanda, feel free to jump in whenever you want. You don't gotta wait on me, but how'd y'all feel about it?
Yes. I loved it. I mean, just like Nadia said, I was fully immersed in the world that he created, and he tends to do that with all his pictures. Like, I remember watching Pan's Labyrinth for the first time, and it was just incredible. And you want to be like stuck in there for as long as you can and just absorb everything that he's actually giving you visually and emotionally on screen with these characters. I loved the structure of this. I think it's really important to note because it ties everything together quite well. And just the switch to the creature, and you mentioned that there's been other adaptations and just other ways that, directors and obviously writers would focus on the creature, and it was always negative. Like the original film, the first one that came out black and white, you just see him like going through the village, and they have like pitchforks and they're ready to kill. Like they don't really touch upon the humanity of the creature to this extent. So to get like a full section just dedicated to his story and just him discovering the hardships of the world after going through so much pain himself, and just seeing kindness and the blind mind as well, it was just so beautifully done. And I think that this is possibly like the definitive adaptation, or like iteration of it in this particular case. And that's how I felt walking out of there. And then I watched it again, like on Netflix as well at home. And I watched it with my parents, and they were just amazed by it. But yeah, it's just knowing that this is like Jacob Elordi's like even Oscar nomination. His first one is truly something special because he is the best part of that film. Sorry, Oscar Isaac, love you too, but still, like Jacob just sticks with you. It's just such a beautiful performance through and through, and this film it's just gorgeous. It's so beautiful and emotional. Like you do cry. Yeah, I loved every second of it. And it's something very special, especially like for Del Toro. So you can feel that being poured into every single aspect of this film.
Yeah, I think that's probably the main thing, is you just feel the passion that exudes from Del Toro as he's making this film.
Yeah.
And the way that he finds beauty in horror, which I think he does better than probably anyone else. It is a definitive Frankenstein story, but it is also like a little bit Beauty and the Beast with the heartbreaking aspect of what the creature, is dealing with. And I think that's something that Del Toro. This is a non-human character by definition, and the way that he gets this humanity out of Elordi, not by saying very much, just by his actions and by a very striking physical performance, I think is probably where he shines the most in this film.
Yeah, I was mad because I only spent half of TIFF there. So I was there the first half, and there were like 0 screenings. while I was in Toronto, so I was kind of ticked off. But I luckily did get a theater screening of the film, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I loved looking at it. The one thing, and I like this movie a whole lot. I really enjoy the movie. I don't know if people will be mad at me that the way I do this sometimes. A lot of my rewatches come from shorter reactions. I watch the Real Rejects a lot, and they allow me to like watch movies without having to watch the whole thing. Most of my rewatches of that has come from this, and being able to see that, hear other people's critiques, it also just helps me hone in on themes and stuff. But I remember watching it. I felt how long this movie was, though. I definitely did. It probably didn't help that it was like at 8 o'clock at night up until like 10:30, 11. So I was knocked the hell out. But with how long it is, how do y'all consider the pacing, what he does with that? Because while I think I've said this a bunch, if y'all actually watch the shows, thank you if you do. There have been a lot of movies where I feel the length, but I don't really care. This is another one, but I will say the pacing gets to be a little bit long at times, or more so you feel how long this movie is.
I think you feel quiet moments, but I don't know if it's become sluggish. I think those quiet moments are done intentionally. And I think like pacing wise, you could make an argument that Jacob Elordi and the older man in the house, that part of the story moves very slowly, but I feel like it is deliberate with how slow it moves. And there are moments like that where he kind of, it's almost like you've got the car turned up to full, and then you just kind of pull back a little bit. And it's to make, when you go into full speed again, it's to make that hit a little bit harder. It is the moment going up the roller coaster before you go back down it. And I think he has a couple moments in this film where they are slower, but I think it's very deliberately paced. And I think it works to strengthen some of the more climactic moments of the film.
Shout out to David Bradley and Guillermo del Toro for me finding a way to like Filch from Harry Potter. That was great. David Bradley did his damn thing in that. I think all the actors did in that. So, but how did y'all feel about how long the movie was and everything?
Yeah, when I first watched it, I felt the pacing was a little bit sluggish during Victor's tale. But I have to say, the more I rewatch it, the less that bothers me. Because, as Nick, you were saying earlier, a lot of deliberate choices. And I feel like you really get that with Victor's chapter, because so much, like, it all starts with his mother and his father. Victor's character is who he is because of his relationship with his parents. So you get why Del Toro spends so much time building onto those dynamics, because you see how, Victor's mother's death affects him. He becomes obsessed with controlling life. And then Victor's father, he wants to surpass him in terms of fame and notoriety. So, when I first watched it, I felt it was a little slow moving, particularly during that chapter. But the more I watch it, I'm able to find, I guess, more deliberate choices in what Del Toro is doing and why he's keeping certain scenes in there. And I've just grown to kind of feel not as bothered by it, I guess.
Yeah, I felt the same way, because I watched it at TIFF, I think at like 8:30 in the morning. It was a very early screening. So obviously, given the time and the craziness of the week that it was, I think that I felt it. But then I watched it another 2 times and it breezed right by. And I think that, like, once there is a lull with Victor's story, it goes straight into like the creatures as well. So it does pick up at a certain point, but I do agree with the fact that it is, the certain choices are deliberate. But I think the beauty with this is that the visuals, if there's no dialogue or anything like that, or having, the creature like walk around and just appreciate the beauty and all of that, it's letting scenes breathe that make everything more effective. And then you see why the characters obviously develop into something else entirely. So it's a very slow build with like the most amazing payoff. And again, like the more you watch it, you just gain a new appreciation for what he did and how he paced the story.
The last question I have in terms of like, during my first watch, I scored it really high. I really enjoyed it. But that ending for me also, did that feel earned? That's a question I've been hearing about, like the forgiveness. Did it feel earned? Did it feel like it was given enough time for the creature to forgive Victor at that end after both stories were being told? Did there need to be a little more conflict, or was there enough there?
It's tough because I think it's earned in the way that showing Victor forgiveness almost makes him better than human, like makes the creature better than human. And it is something that most people wouldn't be expected to do in that scenario. And I think the fact that the creature does is showing some of his simplicity, some of his naivety, I guess I'll say, makes him better than human because he doesn't have that need for revenge. He doesn't have that need for vengeance and stuff like that. He can let things go. He doesn't hold on to a grudge in the same way. So I think that it's earned in the way that it may not make sense as a human, but the fact that he is human adjacent, let's say, I think it works for what that character is.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do. It shows that he is better than human, and that you kind of see how monstrous Victor is, and like that's the entire point of like the film in that case, is just to see how terrible of a person he became. And you know, he is human, and then someone who is made up and like completely undead. It's just he understands, you know, basic principles and morals and values that, you know, Victor kind of lost along the way for his madness. So I love that ending. I actually cried with that ending. It is emotional in a certain way that he just went through so much. Realistically, the creature went through so much with Victor and then on his own that he still has, you know, the space in his body, heart, sure, that he's going to like forgive him in that way. So I do think it's earned.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely felt the emotion of that last scene, and particularly the conversation too of forgiveness between Victor and the creature. And it kind of even echoes some conversations that the creature has earlier with the old man, talking about forgiveness and learning to forget and move on. And you see the evolution of the creature's character in that moment of him learning different ways of approaching life and the world. So I found it really poetic.
Yeah. I mean, to me, if you have a Mickelson in the room, just the voice and the face, it just makes you spew emotions in general. I love those two. But I want to go over to Jacob Elordi. Specifically, what are his chances? Because him and Stellan have been like neck and neck, and you still have also the One Battle Boys right there. And you know I want Delroy to just sneak and take everything. But like, I really think it is a two-man race between Stellan and Jacob, which is one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. Coming out of that, I heard people say, "Oh my God, Jacob Elordi, you have no idea what you're about to witness." And then I saw it and I was like, yeah. What are the chances that he walks away with this?
I mean, I think he has a pretty good chance as of now. It'll be interesting at SAG because Stellan isn't there. So it's, you know, I really think we might have a scenario where we have different winners leading up to the Oscars. So, but I think he has a pretty good shot just in general.
Yeah.
I didn't think he'd be here.
I didn't think so either. We campaigned hard, okay? We campaigned.
I'm rooting for it. Amanda and I were both rooting for it, but like I didn't think it was going to become a reality, if I'm being honest. I think this film did a lot better at the Oscars than I thought it was going to.
That's the other thing too. I didn't because we loved Frankenstein, so it was hard to maybe see what the trajectory of that would be come award season, if they understood it, if they loved it, type of thing. So I feel like it definitely like performed extremely well. For me, what I'm also hoping for, like I love Jacob, he has a very long career, don't get me wrong, but if Delroy Lindo gets like that legacy win, I'm not gonna be mad. I'm not gonna be mad. I don't think any of us are gonna be upset with that, but like Jacob over Stellan in this particular case, like I agree with Nad, that's gonna be everywhere. So we're gonna be holding our breath on that night for sure.
And I do think, like, it sounds comical to say, but I, like Amanda said, like, we kind of campaigned for it. I think the performance of Frankenstein at TIFF did a lot of the heavy lifting because it didn't have great, overwhelming early reactions coming out of, was it Venice or Cannes?
I think it was Venice.
Can't remember exactly. Was it
Venice?
Venice?
Yeah, Venice.
I think so, yeah.
It had like, lukewarm, like it was liked, it wasn't loved, didn't get any ridiculous, crazy standing ovation. But TIFF, like even just being on the ground, you would hear people over and over again talking about how surprised they were by it, how much they loved it. And I think the fact of it not having that overwhelming word of mouth coming into the festival, especially unlike films like No Other Choice was spoken of very highly going in. I think that the reaction from TIFF kind of catapulted it, and then it went on from there to be this kind of juggernaut.
Yeah, and it placed within the top audience award at TIFF, which was huge for the movie. Yeah, and then ever since that point, it's just been rising in momentum.
We did it, guys.
We did it.
Y'all did.
We did it.
Way to go, Toronto.
They need to thank us.
Thank y'all very much. It's making me more and more upset that I wasn't able to watch it with y'all there, but it's okay.
You were there in spirit.
Right.
It's okay.
I was. I personally, if I have to go with my brain, I think a legacy win is going to go to Stellan because he's never been nominated. But I would not be surprised at all if Jacob comes away with this. It really is. And it's crazy. I've been talking about this all this series that we've been doing. This is a year of absolutely stacked categories where I don't think there's any winner in almost any category that's going to upset me or be like, wow, they shouldn't or should not. And this is one's included. Like coming out of one battle, I thought Sean Penn was a lock. I thought Benicio was a sleeper lock. And they're like not even in the conversation right now that I'm hearing. And like if either of them pull it out, I would be like, so, but my heart and my brain say that Jacob is like second place with a very, very easy chance of swiping it.
The thing I wonder is you had with Timothée Chalamet, everyone kind of believes that he's going to take it from Marty Supreme. And it was because he had that really good turn in Dune Part 2 that kind of carried him. And I wonder if Jacob's role in Priscilla last year, which was also very critically acclaimed as Elvis Presley, if that helps him along where they look like, okay, this is a up and comer, but 2 stellar performances in a row. I wonder if that's going to help his chances over someone like, I mean, I guess Stellan technically is Andor, but on the film side of things, he doesn't have that back-to-back killer set, right?
Yeah, I guess you have to also look at popularity sometimes because they tend to do that in the past couple of years. It's kind of not that it's bad, but it's just like it's what the general audience would want as well. I think so. They're not catering. You get what I'm saying? Like I don't want to make it sound like they're catering to the audience. Like that's not what they're doing. But I just feel
call
like
out the voters, Amanda.
Sorry. I just feel like they're more conscious of what people love in order for also like the telecast to be successful at the same time. So I think they're watching more. I do think that they're watching more. I think that, they're taking more things into consideration, which is amazing, for films like Everything Everywhere All at Once to win. And like, just even a Nora going as far as it did, like, this is just really important stuff for the Academy. So I think that, Jacob being up there and really picking like different projects, like he knows what he wants to do with his career post Euphoria. So he knows that he wants to get away from certain things and just pick some like really, really talented filmmakers. So I think they know that like this is such a special performance, and they know that he has like longevity in the industry at this point. So I don't know if they'll give him like an early win for that, but I can see it, you know, like being benefiting from it, because I think he's younger than Timmy. I think he's 3 years younger than
Yeah.
Timmy. Yeah.
How
So
old is Timmy?
like
Because I just looked it up. I think Jacob is 28.
he's a 95 baby, so he's 30. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting if like Jacob wins earlier than Timmy. This is just how my brain works. It doesn't matter if he's younger than Timothy when he wins his first Oscar, but there's my ramble for today. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's a very physically transformative performance too, which Oscars love. And I mean, it's like kind of like Doug Jones level of physicality that Jacob Elordi does in this movie. It's amazing to watch.
I actually wonder how a Doug Jones creature would have been, because that man is also brilliant. But going, Amanda, off of your point, the fact that it's not a genre I love, but it's a genre that I'm starting to watch more. 5 of the actor nominations are from horror films.
I know,
including this.
amazing.
It's kind of wild. And one is from Weapons, which is a straight up popular horror film. So it's really, really dope. But going strictly back to Frankenstein, we talked about Jacob, but what were some other performances that you all liked, disliked? I have not seen Mia Goth in anything else, so I don't know how to judge whether or not she did a good job. I thought she was fine. But I just continues to just Jacob is definitely better than Oscar, but Oscar's my man. Oscar can kind of do no wrong. I thought he was a perfect victor here. The same kind of like smarmy, annoying, but you can't help but be charmed by the dude. Just also every movie he makes me question ethnically ambiguous. What are you doing? I swore you were Hispanic. I think you are. You're not. I'm not sure. But you are able to transform into just about damn near anything. But yeah, Nick, you had something to say about Mia? Because I don't know where we're going.
I like Mia a lot.
Okay.
I think Mia is miscast in this film. That is the one performance that I think Mia Goth is such a powerful on-screen performance, and just her voice and kind of her way about her to play the kind of King Kong style sweet damsel to juxtapose to the creature. I think she was a little too much in terms of just who Mia Goth is. I think that a softer spoken, quieter performance would have been better in that sense to pair with the creature. I like her a lot, but I think she kind of overtook him a little bit with her presence.
So you're saying, because I was a little confused, so you're saying that you wanted the character to be a little bit more damsel-y? Because I thought that like her being an intellectual comparison to Victor while being an emotional comparison to the creature was a great kind of foil for the both of them at the same time, and that's why I thought she was good in the role. So were you looking for like a more damsel kind of character?
When I say damsel, I literally mean soft spoken is kind of the comparable for that, because I don't have any issue with how Del Toro wrote her character. Like I said, my issue is that her juxtaposition with the creature she was giving too strong of a performance, whether it's just like the vocal matches and things like that I think a softer performance, for lack of a better term, and it could literally come down to just her accent, that I just think wasn't particularly right for that role, in that it doesn't soften her. She is very much like she's like a powerhouse, and she can't not be a powerhouse. And a lot of that has to do with her voice and just kind of her screen presence, that I think a more subtle character would have worked a little bit better with the creature.
This is interesting because I felt like she brought this like quiet intensity that's just so different from like her other performances. And I do think that toughness she had to present that duality, like what Rue was saying beforehand. So I think that when she's really tough with Victor, she has a different like voice. But then when she's really soft and vulnerable with the creature, she presents a different side of her. So I think that someone as talented as Mia Goth, I'm not saying that you're saying that she's not talented, but I'm saying like she kind of becomes a chameleon with this character. And I think that because of that level of intensity, even when she is vulnerable, and like that's where even Del Toro directing her, like she let many of her scenes, they let breathe, and you just sit with her, and she's just so calculated with everything. And I loved her performance. I thought she was so strong in this. Yeah, but I do understand where you're coming from with the soft-spoken characters. I do get it.
Yeah, I think like you said with the intensity, I kind of wish there was just more of a. I like the way she interacts with Victor. It's the way I didn't see as much, like you said, a chameleon. I didn't see as much of a switch between kind of caring for this wounded puppy in Frankenstein's monster. Sorry, the creature. And I wish I would have seen a little bit more of a switch in terms of the softness that was a good juxtaposition to the strong-headed character that she is otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not as passionate about Mia Goth in this movie compared to the other performances, but there's a part of me that wishes she had a little bit more scenes with the creature just to get more of that dynamic with her sympathy and empathy towards him. And because she had such a strong connection in terms of feeling like she was of a different world than the one she was living in. And I think that's part of why she's so attracted to the creature. So I kind of wanted to see more of that dynamic breathe a little bit. But I liked the duality of her performance. And I think she has a really strong presence. And even in the character of Claire, which completely unrecognizable, I would not have thought that was her. The makeup on that character was amazing. But she just has this presence, this kind of lingering presence that I kept thinking about in the back of my mind. I just kind of wish she had more scenes with the creature for me to really grasp that connection between those two characters. But I thought she did a good job with the duality of Elizabeth's role plus Claire's role.
I definitely did not know that was her playing the mom at the same time either until somebody else mentioned that running it back. But David Bradley, Charles Dance, Lars Mikkelsen, the fact that we haven't mentioned Christoph Waltz in anything shows how good this is. Like any other performances y'all wanted to kind of point out?
I mean, Christoph Waltz for me was probably like the weakest out of everyone. Just even like the writing for him, like we could have condensed it. I also don't like what they did with him in terms of like, you know, the creature becoming like all of that just felt really weird and probably the one little setback like in the film for me.
Yeah, I agree with that. If I had to pick the weakest link, I feel like everything with Harlander's character was a little disjointed compared to everything else. There was just something about those scenes that kind of took me out of the entire experience for some reason. And I don't know if it was particularly Christoph Waltz's performance or the way the character was written, or maybe a combination of both, but I didn't feel as compelled by him and his place in the story compared to how the other characters were working together.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's the one, what you felt for Mia Goth, I felt for Christoph. Christoph was doing Christoph. Nobody does Christoph like he does, but I felt like when he was doing his thing, it didn't fit the world. Even though the character kind of seems to call for somebody like him, it just some reason didn't mesh. So like it didn't fully take me out because I like him in damn near everything, but I see what y'all talking about in terms of him just not fitting. I think again for me, David Bradley in the entirety of the creature with him and the family when he's in the background and the mice, that's probably my favorite part of the film. even though I saw from a mile away, because again, didn't read the source material, what was going to happen, and being like, damn it, I don't want to see this, but it's going to happen. And like even the voiceover of like the wolves aren't, nobody hears the evil party. The wolves are just being wolves. They're just doing what they do. Like I felt like that was my favorite scene, and for me it was centered on David Bradley and how caring and believable he was in that role.
Yeah, it's nice to hear about him because we don't often hear him being singled out in conversations about this movie, and I think he did a really good job, and such a big part of why that whole sequence in the forest plays so well. And he's such a big part of the creature's evolution too, so he adds a lot of depth to the character.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think him and Lars are the unsung heroes here.
Yeah,
I really like Lars Mikkelsen in this role.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, I was lucky enough to get to spend time on the ship, so I got to be around Lars a lot, and he just has a presence that was commanding yet soft. And I think that was, you could have just had like a stereotypical like aggressive captain, like, you know, off with their heads kind of thing, but he was very much like it was a very human performance from him, and I think he is the unsung hero. But Bradley as well is obviously very good in his sequence.
I already mentioned my love for Lars, so yeah, for sure wanted more of him in that.
Yeah, I gotta say, every time I heard David Bradley speak, though, I thought of Pinocchio.
yes,
Because that's such a good performance, and that whole movie makes me cry. And every time I heard him in Frankenstein, I couldn't help but think of that voice performance in Pinocchio.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
But coming up to the end of this, any final thoughts that y'all want to talk about? Nick, I don't know if you want to mention it or not, but every time I see the creature fall into the ice cap thing, it reminds me of the story you told me about what happened, which is absolutely wild behind the scenes. So I just set you up. Go ahead and say it, because I think it's cool.
I don't know if I guess I'm technically allowed to tell this.
You should be able to now.
Yeah, there was. So I was on set the day that Elordi gets blown off the ship and goes into the ice. And unfortunately, there was an issue on set that when the stunt double, they had made kind of a disc. And when the stunt double lands on the disc, it's supposed to flip, and then he slides in and then swims out the other end. And what happened was the electronics on the disc closed before he had fallen through, and it broke his mandible. He was trapped all the way, broke his jaw. He was a very nice guy, had a couple kids. Obviously, he was not on the shoot after that. But it was very scary. And Del Toro does all of his directing over a microphone. So you just have Del Toro screaming, like, get him out of there, get him out of there. So it was a very like intense moment.
Oh my God.
And it was just unfortunately a technical issue. It wasn't anything anyone had done wrong. It wasn't any mistake that had been made, but lucky that it trapped him, that he was going down feet first, because if he was going down head first, he would have been trapped head first underwater, and that could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, every time I see that scene, I can't think of anything anymore.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, because I wanted to mention him for a little bit because we didn't talk about him that much, but it's Guillermo. It's GDT. How much care he has in everything. So when stuff messes up, you're not too worried about like the ultimate safety of people, and just hearing how much he cared about like that guy and what happened. Because he put ultimate care into this film. Again, so glad I saw it in the big screen. But yeah, any final thoughts? The final thoughts on this movie, its impact, the 5 views that Nadia had, all that goodness. Amanda, we'll start with you. Final thoughts on the film.
Final thoughts. This is such a beautiful film, and it's the definitive version of Frankenstein for me. I think everyone gave an incredible performance. You'll just fall in love with the world that GDT created as per usual, like the rest of his films, and you'll fall in love with these characters, specifically Jacob Elordi as the creature. It's so well-rounded, and it's beautiful to look at as well. He's a master for a reason, and anytime he comes out with a new film, it's magic all the time. So I love this. I love Frankenstein. Yeah.
Nick, what about you, sir?
Yeah, I think it's gothic beauty at its finest.
Yeah.
I love the way that the love Guillermo del Toro has for his films goes into each and every one of them, and you can see it on screen. And I really don't feel that with almost any other director, at least in the same way, that it is every one of his films is like his own child. And there's so much care that goes into it and thought that goes into it. And I really appreciate that. And I think to make the definitive version of a novel that has been around for decades and decades and decades and decades, is pretty damn impressive to do that in, 2025. So I echo what Amanda said, that I think it is the definitive version. I think it's a great film. I think Jacob Elordi is fantastic in this. And, that's pretty much my closer on Frankenstein. I do want to say that our two panelists here, Amanda and Nadia, are both Toronto critics that I get to luckily see a lot of films with, and I'm so happy that they're on the episode today. But we can take it to Nadia's final thoughts on the film.
So happy to be here too. I always love watching films, going to the screenings with you both. My final thoughts, I am going to echo everything that was just said. I love this film. I think that the passion for the storytelling that Guillermo del Toro has is felt in everything about this story, from the writing to the direction to the visuals. And I'll single out the visuals a little bit because the production design and the costume design are just absolutely amazing. And I think they're such smart reflections of how Del Toro interprets the characters and the story. The one example that I keep thinking of is the bloody handprint of Victor's mother and how that kind of carries on into Victor's red gloves. That detail just speaks to how much thought goes into every single choice visually that's made. And it's just amazing to watch and to see a filmmaker who's not afraid of emotion and not afraid of being earnest and bringing all that onto the screen and wearing his heart on his sleeve. I just thought it was masterful storytelling and a beautiful movie to watch, and one that I'm sure that I'm going to keep watching many more times.
Yep, it's GDT. The man pours out emotion with every word that he says. Shout out the video of him singing Mexican folk songs just in a random restaurant. That was dope as hell. But Nick, Amanda, as always, you can find all of us here in one shape, way, or another on Bitesize Breakdown. Check us out on bitesizebreakdown.com. But Nadia, tell all the people where they can find you and what you got going on in your life.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at NadReviews and on Instagram at Nadia Reviews. And you can find me next. I'm not sure what I'm doing next. I don't even know when my next screening is. I've got to see. But just follow me on there and you'll get the latest updates from me in terms of what movies that I've seen lately and what I'm looking forward to. 2026 is a very stacked year, so can't wait to see what else the year has in store. And I'm probably going to watch Frankenstein again very soon.
There you go. Well, it was a pleasure to have you with us today. Pleasure to talk to you. And so thank you for joining us. And thank you all for joining us. For Nadia, for Amanda, for Nick, and you boy Amaru. We'll see you. Peace.